Let's hope this is recording the sound this time. This is a letter to Rick Berman, Brendan Braga, and Jerry Taylor, the surviving writers. This is a sequel to Star Trek Generations. It's a sequel to Generations. It's called Star Trek Resurrection. Okay, short story. Star Trek Resurrections, concerning a Mr. William Shatner. Sorry, Star Trek Resurrections. The planet Viridean 3, stardate 48650.2. Captain Jason DeCane materializes beside a pile of rocks at the base of a large red canyon. He presses a button on his tricorder and taps his communication badge. DeCane to relativity, I found him. 2 to beam up. The tombstone on the grave reads, "Here lies Admiral JamesT. Kirk, Captain of the Federation starship USS Enterprise 1701. Sometime later, in the 29th century, the body of Admiral Kirk lies in a bed in the sick bay. Dr. Darwin examines the corpse. We are lucky, Captain. The cadaver is still warm. There is no sign of rigor mortis, although he does have some internal bleeding, a fractured spine, and severe head injuries. Fortunately, he has been dead for less than 3 hours. Can you revive him? Asked Captain DeCane. I've injected the corpse with Borg nanoprobes to reverse cellular necrosis and repair any tissue damage. It will take several hours to heal his internal injuries, but Admiral Kirk should make a complete recovery. Don't worry, sir, I have used a similar technique before. Oh yes, smiled DeCane, the Talaxian on the USS Voyager. Let me know as soon as you are ready to revive him. 3 hours later, JamesT. Kirk opens his eyes. Good afternoon, Admiral, smiles the holographic doctor. I trust that you slept well. Where am I? Asks Jim Kirk. The last thing I remember was being crushed beneath the Nine Bridge on Viridean 3. I thought I was going to die. You did, frowned the doctor. I resurrected you. The Admiral sat up in bed and raised his eyebrows. You did what? I brought you back to life, explained the holographic doctor. Captain DeCane stood at the foot of the bed. It is a great honor to meet you at last, Admiral. The old man frowns. Please don't salute me, Captain, and call me Jim. Now he paused. Would you mind telling me where I am? You are on board the Federation timeship Relativity, explained the captain. What year is it? Asked Kirk, gazing round the sick bay. All this equipment looks very advanced. This is the 29th century, Jim, explained Captain DeCane. I must have overslept, frowned Kirk. Admiral Kirk and Captain DeCane stand on the bridge of the Relativity. Why did you bring me back? Asks the Admiral. Jason DeCane smiles. Well, Jim, you are personally responsible for well over 17 violations of the Temporal Prime Directive, are you not? Captain Kirk folds his arms. I wasn't counting, he sighed. DeCane sat down in the captain's chair and pressed a button on his control panel. Well, that makes you perfectly qualified for this assignment, explains the captain. The Temporal Prime Directive, Regulation 157, Section 3, Paragraph 18, clearly states that Starfleet officers will take all necessary precautions to minimize participation in historical events. Every cadet in Starfleet knows that, Captain, frowned Kirk. The face of Captain Leo Braxton appears on the view screen. Frankly, Admiral, we have a very serious problem. This is Captain Braxton, my previous commanding officer. He is suffering from a severe case of temporal psychosis. I'm not a doctor, frowns Admiral Kirk. He escaped from a Federation correction facility on Cygnus Alpha 2 weeks ago and is currently on the loose. He has been travelling backwards and forwards in time, wreaking havoc and causing several temporal distortions, explained Captain Kane. Admiral Kirk breathed a heavy sigh. I am retired, Captain. Frankly, Jim, we need your help to track him down and repair any damage to the timelines. Kane presses a button on the arm of the captain's chair, and a list of statistics appear on the view screen at the front of the bridge. In the past week alone, Captain Braxton has been responsible for 5 temporal incursions. VHS video recorders, record players, and analog televisions vanished in a second. Technology was completely replaced by computers in the 21st century, and Sir Clive Sinclair was almost wiped from the history books. Kirk interrupted. Didn't he invent the Sinclair SX3000 microchip? Without which we would have no replicators, added Captain Kane. Only last week the name of Christopher Pike vanished from all Starfleet records. Ah, I see the problem, frowned Kirk. Will you help us? Asked the captain. What choice do I have? Laughed the Admiral. After all, I do owe you my life. Consider me drafted. He paused. But what about temporal psychosis? Won't I be affected as well? The captain tapped his communicator badge. Doctor to the bridge. The holographic doctor materialized next to Admiral Kirk. I've come up with an antidote for the psychosis. It contains a high degree of adrenaline, enoprovaline, quinoxaline, and quinovaline, explained the doctor. He's very clever, laughed Kirk. Did you draft him as well? He asked. I am a Starfleet officer, sir. I have over 400 years' experience in medicine, explained Dr. Darwin. Are you an android? Asked Kirk. No, frowned Dr. Darwin. I am an emergency medical hologram. Starbase 3056 in the Beta Quadrants. Admiral Kirk stares in wonder at the gleaming silver ship on the view screen. It is fully equipped with temporal shielding and can travel to any point in history in the blink of an eye, explains Captain Kane. You're giving me my own time ship, laughs Admiral Kirk. She's called the FTS Enterprise. That stands for Federation Time Ship, by the way, smiled the captain. We named her in your honour. You are full of surprises, smiled Kirk. I have a few more surprises for you, Jim. Captain Kane tapped his communicator badge. Relativity to Enterprise, to beam aboard. Aye, aye, Captain, replies a deep voice with a Scottish accent. Admiral James T. Kirk and Captain Jason Kane stand on the transporter pad of the FTS Enterprise. Scotty! Admiral Kirk looks astonished. What the hell are you? He pauses. Scotty is slumped face down on the transporter console. Another holographic doctor breathes a heavy sigh. He just had a heart attack. Captain Kirk frowns. Just my luck, I guess. All my old friends seem to die before I have a chance to say goodbye. Chapter 2. The doors of the elevator slide open, and Captain James T. Kirk and Captain Kane stand on the bridge of the Federation timeship Enterprise. A silver-haired Nubian woman sitting at the communications console stands up and turns to face the captain. She smiles a broad-toothed grin. Kirk stares in amazement. Oh! He shouts, Is that really you? Admiral Uhura hugs her old friend. I was rescued when my starship hit a meteor storm, explained Uhura. There is somebody else here who you may remember. She turned towards the captain's chair. The chair spins around. Spock! Gasps Admiral Kirk, rubbing his eyes in astonishment. I'm glad to see you too. Spock almost smiles. But how? Asks Jim Kirk. I was on board a Romulan freighter, explained Spock. I was trying to form an alliance between the Romulans and Vulcans on Romulus for several years as an ambassador. We were attacked by a fleet of Andorian ships. According to the history books, there were no survivors. So according to the history books, there were no survivors. What about Dr. McCoy? Asked Kirk. Captain Duquesne stood behind the Admiral. He lived a very long life, Jim. He was 137 years old when he died. We are not allowed to rewrite history, only to correct it. Admiral Kirk wipes a tear from his left eye. Oh well, I suppose that bones should remain buried, he sighed. End of chapter 2. Chapter 3. A wise old grey-haired Japanese gentleman trims the branches of a small miniature bonsai tree in the glass house of his roof garden. Admiral Sulu yawns. I must be getting old, sighed the retired Starfleet officer. A pot of Cardassian fish-head stew boils on an old black stove in the kitchen of the Admiral's penthouse apartment. Sulu sits down in an old wicker chair on the balcony, overlooking Times Square. He soon falls asleep. The Cardassian fish-head stew still bubbles on the stove. Half an hour later, the old Japanese gentleman opens his eyes. What's that smell? Sulu sniffs. Something's burning. The kitchen is on fire. Golden red flames dance through an open window, and a cloud of thick black smoke chokes the penthouse suite. Suddenly there is a flash of rainbow light, and Captain Kirk materializes in front of his old friend. Don't bother running in there, smiled Kirk. You'll get burnt to ashes. The captain grinned at Sulu. Come with me instead. Kirk tapped his communicator badge. Kirk to Enterprise. 2 to beam up. The headline of the New York Times one day later. Admiral Sulu dead. He died in a fire in his penthouse apartment. Chapter 4. Battle stations, red alert, all hands on deck, shouts the captain in a Russian accent. We are in for a fight. Raise all shields, orders Chekhov. The USS Vostok is surrounded by 5 Andorian vessels. Fire all torpedoes, widespread, shouts the captain. The shields are holding, sighs Lieutenant Wright. Hold them tight, suggests Chekhov. The Andorian ships fire a burst of phasers at the Vostok. Shields are failing, shouts Lieutenant Wright. There is a burst of rainbow light, and Admiral Sulu materializes beside his old best friend. In 2 seconds, the ship will be space dust, he frowns. Sulu to Enterprise. Beam us up. Anyway, that's a rough idea I've had. Let's hope it works this time.